Started this channel last year with the hopes of posting videos that pertain to writing, specifically be able to share my journey as a writer. I've been really excited to see the Booktube community kind of come to life, and I've been inspired by watching a lot of those videos. It just makes me very, very happy. So I thought that I would post my very first book review. Today I wanted to review two books that are specifically on writing because they have really helped me in my journey. One of them is called The War of Art by Pressfield. This has been a lifesaver for me. It's a short read, you know, it's not very long, and the sections are really, really short. But Pressfield is kind of like the Seth Godin for writers. He has a lot of really good nuggets for writers that are just starting out. I needed to read the book at several different points in this process. At the very, very beginning, when even referring to yourself as a writer can be terrifying. He identifies that as a force called the resistance, which you might, now that I've talked about it, hear it more and more often in writing or articles about writing. It was great to know that there was someone out there that understood the writing process. And Stephen was much older than I am when he actually published his first book. He could have hit send on different projects that he was working on, but he was too afraid. The War of Art does a really good job of identifying fear for creatives and how that can kill your art before it even begins. And I think for a lot of people, it does. It's one of those books that you just always have next to you or close to you, either on your bedside or on your bookshelf, because you're always wanting to refer back to it. He also identifies the need to sit down every day and just write and not judge yourself for what it is that you come out with. And that has been one of the biggest hurdles for me, one of the biggest obstacles in actually finishing up a novel, which is what I'm currently working on, is the idea that you can sit down every day and not really judge yourself on what it is that you come out with, but it's really, at first, especially the beginning of the process, it's really about just rewiring your mind and training your body to sit down every day. It's like muscle memory, figuring out what it's like to sit down and go to that same place in your mind. He talks about the Muse, relates creativity and the place that your creativity comes from in a very spiritual way, and not in a religious way. You don't even have to be religious to understand that it comes from a very personal place. And that's probably the reason why for a lot of people it's so hard, and for a majority of people why they never actually even attempted the first time. It's that fear of that innermost thing being rejected. I follow Pressfield also on Facebook, and he has a blog, StephenPressfield.com, I think, and he does a blog every Wednesday called Writing Wednesdays. I also recommend that because it's, you know, he's a wealth of knowledge, because he also has written several best-selling novels. I would recommend, if you are a writer, or if you eventually would like to write, or even if you don't, even if you just are creative, he's great. He's a great resource for creatives. The second book was actually a Christmas gift, and I have loved reading it. It is On Writing by Stephen King, and it's his memoir on writing. It's called A Memoir of the Craft. This has so many uses. So the first half of the book, Stephen, who is he's just a legend. I mean, he really is. The guy is incredible. The first half of the book walks you through what his journey has been as a writer, where he started all the way back to childhood, and just kind of lets you see how his journey has played out. And there are several moments throughout it that I was crying because it's just so moving. I didn't realize that he struggled with addiction for a really long time, and his wife and his family eventually decided to have an intervention because he was so out of control. This is after The Shining, I believe, and then you know, just kind of basically when he's at the top of his game. When writers at that level are able to share in an honest and raw way their journey, just their thoughts on how their life played out in their own words. Then the second part kind of reads as a to-do list for writers. How you should write, the place that you should write from. In the book he talks about, I believe he calls it the basement, which is like what Steven Pressfield talks about when he talks about the Muse. It's exactly the same thing, but Stephen King refers to it as that place in your gut where he resides, the Muse. And that is the place that you want to write from. I feel like some of the best stuff that I've written was when I got out of my head. It's just not something that comes naturally to a lot of people. Getting past the idea that you're writing a book for any other reason, not for money or fame or recognition, than just to write, just to get it out of you. You can't successfully write anything worth reading if it comes from a place, from any other place than just writing, because if you don't, you might die. And that's kind of the place that I got to. Two incredible books that I read constantly. So if you are a creative, or even more specifically, if you are a writer and you're struggling with everything. I mean, I know when you're a writer and you're just starting out, your emotions can run the gamut, from being self-conscious and not really knowing if you're good enough, all the way to your family not supporting you or understanding, or you've always been this other thing, so how could you be this now? I've linked both of the books to their Amazon link below. And I would also recommend both of these as gifts. The War of Art specifically for any type of creative, not just a writer. Any singer, songwriter, painter, any type of creative at all, even entrepreneurs. I mean, if I could have only read this in high school, I would have known that my life wasn't as crazy and out of turn as maybe I thought it was for a very long time. So thank you so much for stopping by the channel. I really hope that you liked my video. I don't really know what I'm doing yet, so I'm still feeling everything out, and I'm still learning about the Booktube community, so I would love comments from you guys. Obviously, I would love recommendations for other books on writing or just other books on things, so leave those below. If you did stumble upon my video and you are a writer, I would love to hear from you. I think it's important to have a group of peers around you for this process. I feel like specifically for writing, there's not a lot of resources out there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye!